Hello folks and welcome. Linux Mint 21.3 Cinnamon. Filming in 1920 by 1080, adjust your YouTube player accordingly. I would highly recommend subscription for this video because it will be more than 15 minutes. Person hiking with yellow brackets is what that icon should look like. So in the last several months, I've had people ask questions relating to auto logins, password lengths that you can change from the standard 8 to something shorter, how to create users, the login window relationship to auto logins, and guest sessions. I'm going to address all of them in this one video today. So this was requested by several users. And I apologize for not getting back to this information because I have been dealing with a lot of family health issues. So this is my attempt to try to make up for some of that. In either case, I will be discussing all these subjects today, filming in 1920 by 1080. Again, this is LM21.3 Cinnamon. Subscription key in the corner. So I'm going to start with something basic and talk about your standard installation screen when you get to this point. So you put in your name, your computer name, and you pick a username. You can also pick a password of any length. Any length. That would be your primary password. Then your next selection would be require password to log in, which is my favorite, or log in automatically. And I understand the reason why somebody would do that. You are also required to put in the user and pass before you continue. Otherwise, it will not go gray. So either way, you're requested to use a password even though you're logging in automatically. Does that make sense? So choose wisely, and also I would recommend that you handwrite that password down if it's kind of weird. Something you can remember, hopefully. Now, I'm not going to talk about encrypting your home folder today. Just talking about login info. So if you choose to log in automatically, it's going to create something different in your settings. Down in here, in your login window, I'm going to open this up first. Basically, it's going to create the user that you used on this process. So where's that? So whatever name you picked in here, it's going to appear here in this window also. Right here. So that'd be your username for auto logins. Now, if you decide to do this, I want you to think about this for a second. What kind of computer do you have? If it is a laptop, do you take that laptop outside your home? Maybe down to the coffee shop once in a while, or even hauling it around town, leaving it in your car. What happens if it gets stolen? Or you left it behind? If you have login automatically, that means anyone can lift the lid, turn it on, and get access to all your bookmarks in your web browser, for instance, or all your personal files. Sometimes people have sensitive information in those web browsers, like passwords for your banking. Think about it. Now, if you are using a computer at home, whether it's a tower computer has an external monitor, or a laptop, then I wouldn't worry too much about using that if the computer never leaves the house. But again, I understand that people like this feature because they don't want to deal with punching in passwords constantly. But again, think about that security thing. All right, so if I chose login automatically, again, a setting is generated, and I thought I had it open here somewhere. I guess not. I'll open the login window again. So it puts the username here. Now, if you decide to create more than one user, can you put a comment and the second user? Well, I've tried that feature and it doesn't work too well. As a matter of fact, it just will display a list of users. So yeah, it's generally, I believe, just meant for a single user. It's also meant for people that don't encrypt that home directory. That's the second item I wasn't going to talk about. But in case you do that, you'll notice that your login window has a bubble that if you point at it, automatic login will fail if user's home directory is encrypted. Home directory, home folder. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, allowed guest sessions is a special thing which it doesn't require a password. All right, you'll see it in your login list and you'll click on it. Now, I'm going to give you 2 screenshots from that. So after you open that guest account up, you would click on it. It logs you in automatically with a temporary guest session. And this will be posted to your screen. So this is a generic post-it note, if you want to call it that. All data created with this guest session will be deleted when you log out. If you need to save files, use a USB stick. The file manager also has this if you decide to open it up. It'll say guest dash with a cryptic name on it, and it will not be the same as this one. All right, so if you have internal drives, you're not going to be able to save documents to that. You'll need to save it to a stick. All right, that's all I'm going to say on guest sessions. And I'll close that. Now let's talk about users. Let me get rid of the one in the back too. So let's talk about users. So Bob is our primary user. He was the original user. And when you log in here, you can start creating extra users. So Bob is our main guy, and he's the administrator. Joe Tester is a standard user. Joe cannot install applications, for instance, and he can't do admin kind of stuff. That's including logging into users and groups. So Kim, on the other hand, is an administrator. She has the same basic authority as Bob. She has sudo, super user do. Mark Tester, on the other hand, is a standard user. Same deal. He can't install software. So if you want to think about that as a restricted user or a child, for instance, if you're letting a child use your computer, you probably want a standard user. That way they can't, do too much damage. They can't install programs. All right, that's one of the things that you may want to think about. Now, creating users is pretty simple. You've got standard or admin. Standard, again, is restricted. So we can, let's try to find a name here. How about, see, we got Bob, how about Sam? We'll do Sam. Now, if I decided to use uppercase, Sam Tester, for instance, he's Mark's brother, Mark Tester. Sam Tester is his brother. All right, bad joke aside. The bottom has to be lowercase. So if you decided to start typing it this way, you get a triangle. It's an invalid user. So it has to be lowercase. All right, so we're going to do that. And now we have an add key. I'm going to create one more. And we'll make this one an admin person. And we're going to go with, how about if we go with Susan? Susan, okay. All right, so I just typed it in twice. I didn't want to mess with the uppercase, lowercase. I want to hit add. Now there's a couple of things that if you decide to click this that you may not be aware of, and I'm going to point it out to you in a second. But since we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 users, do we really want auto logins? So what did I say about auto logins? Well, Bob is going to be automatically logged in every time I fire up the computer. Now we have these extra users. What's the solution around that? Well, my solution is to remove that name. That's what my solution is. Okay, and when you do that, that's going to create a users list. And the default is left side of your screen. You can choose the center or the right side of the screen. That's what I'm going to choose. So I removed Bob's name in here. I can also add Bob's name later. I can also add some of the other users' name also. But I'm not, because I got more than 2 users on this machine. So I'm going to reopen this back up just to let you see that Bob, Kim, and Susan are all administrators. That's one. Then I'm going to actually talk about a little bit about passwords. My feeling on passwords. my feeling on when you have a users list. Besides the guest account, which does not require a password, I disabled that earlier. So now we can take a peek at this. So Bob is required to put in a password. Joe Tester is required to do that. Kim is required to do that. Mark Tester is required to do that. Sam Tester is not. It says no pass WD login. Susan is an administrator, has the same. So if I were to reboot the machine, you would see these two users I can just click on, which is not, to me, it's not good security. So this is my preference. I turn these off. There are no pass logins. Off. Close. Reassign a temporary password to Susan. Now, how big are these fields? Well, I'm going to do the show password thing. I'm just going to use numbers. Would I normally do that? Of course not. That is ridiculous. I'm just showing this for the sake of this button. So if I remove the 8s off of these, you will see the button go gray. That means you cannot accept this. You cannot change that. This is a required field of 8 normally. 8. Later I'll be showing you a command in terminal where you can change that to less than 8. But for right now, we're going to continue. Now, if I decided to put a pound symbol in front of this, that's what we call that symbol in the US. Some people call it hash. That's acceptable because there's 8 characters here, 8 numbers, 8 things. Change. Now I'm going to do what I normally do, is to not show password because I'm just funny that way. Why isn't that guy showing his password? How rude. Well, I am just so used to doing this that I don't like to have passwords displayed when I do stuff like this. All right, I'm going to toggle this back and forth so the screen gets updated. So now you can see Susan is taken care of with a password. Then I'm going to give that password to Susan, and Susan can log in and change her own password later. So I'm going to do the same thing with Sam. I just don't like these fields. This is your computer. You can leave these as is. I'm going to turn them off. And I'm going to assign a temporary password to this guy also, to this person. These are all 8 characters, okay? I'm going to assign them avatars. Also, they can also assign their own avatars. Who are we dealing with? Sam Tester. What does he want to be? How about a penguin? How about Susan? How about if we give her a flower? Okay. So, password required, password required, password, 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 all password required. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 users. I'm going to double check my login window. I don't have any users that are auto logged in, so it's going to display a file list. Sorry, it's going to display a users list, so I can pick one of the users. If I decided to add the allow guest sessions, that would be the only account that doesn't require passwords, so you can't change that. But that is a totally restricted account. It's a temporary guest account. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. Now let's talk about standard password changes. Now most users will be using account details, because if you're a restricted user, standard user, you cannot use the users and groups because it requires a password, right? So you can see that the other users are not in this list. Which other users am I referring to? Well, what if you're Joe Tester? If I click that, does Joe's name come up? No, he can't get in there because he's a standard user. However, he can get into here. And then he can click this. Just pretend that says Joe on it. So Joe would put in his current password, and then he would put in a new password. This box is defaulted for the rule of 8 characters in the new and confirmed password. if you use this box on all users. What if I wanted to use this for Bob, but I didn't want to use this 8-character business? I didn't want to put in 8. This will not change until I put 8 of these. I have to put his original password and 8 characters on both of these. I don't want to do that. I want to change it to something shorter. How far can you go? Well, when you originally created your user, as I pointed out, or at least I thought I did, this is up to you. You can put as many characters as you want in here, or less than 8. All right, so I used 5 when I originally created Bob. However, I'm going to do something really that I don't like to show, which is create a single character. Do not do this at home. Do not do this at home. Don't do this at home. I can't say this enough. All right, so our current user is Bob. I'm going to change his password to a single digit using that command right there. Sudo space passwd space Bob. So this is what you're going to be changing password with. The sudo allows me to override a lot of settings. Okay, and this is generated toward Bob. So I'm changing Bob's password right now. And it's requesting the sudo for Bob because Bob is also the administrator of this machine. Well, actually he's one of a couple. But Bob has sudo capabilities. So I'm going to put in Bob's password currently, which is 5 digits, because that's what I chose during the installation process. Now it's going to ask for a new password. Do not do this at home. Do not do this at home. I can't say this enough, but I'm going to show you this as an example. I would choose, you can certainly choose passwords that are 4 or 5 digits, but choosing a single letter is ridiculous, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm pressing a letter now and hitting enter. You won't see anything on the screen. That's normal behavior for this. And I'm going to type the same letter, and it says successfully updated. I'm going to do an Alt and F4, right click on my panel bar, and then I'm going to open up either one of these screens. It requires a single login, right? So I'll do the login window. Filming in 1920 by 1080, if you can't see that, that's a single dot. Single letter I just entered, and I'm going to authenticate that. I'll do the same here. Single letter. Do not do this at home. All right, now I'm going to blow this back up again for you and perform the same command. This time, sudo is a single character. That's why you see the asterisk. Now I'm going to assign it more than 1 letter. I'm going to assign it 5. And hit enter. And repeat the same password. So that's 5. This time I'm going to type in exit. And we'll do the same thing. So if I do a single letter this time, it'll fail. It'll just shake. Password's bad. 5 dots. Authenticate. Can I do that for other users? Yes, I would probably advocate that you tell the user that you're changing their password, because you as the admin person have the authority. But in this case, if I were to do this with, I think I have a user named Joe, so it's easy enough. So I'm changing the password for Joe, sudo password Joe, and I'm going to put in the password for Bob, which is 5 characters in this case. And then when it's asking for a new password, that is for Joe. The new password for Joe. Okay. Less than 8 characters. And then I would inform Joe what his new password was. Now Joe, on the other hand, can log into his own interface And Joe will be faced with this little dilemma. Joe is a restricted user, so his only recourse is this box where he can change his own password. But if you gave him a password that was less than 8, he will need to type that in here. And when he creates a new password, it'll have to be 8 or more characters, because that's the default for this box. He doesn't have the authority to do sudo in terminal, because Joe is a restricted user. He can't open this either because Joe is not on this list. Here is Joe. He is a standard user. So that means he cannot do that sudo command. Neither can Mark and Sam. Susan can, Bob can, and Kim can. Joe, Mark, and Sam cannot use the sudo commands. Super user do. They don't belong to that group. This one does. This one does. This one does not. And this one does. Hopefully that was clear. Now, you can perform some of these commands in terminal. However, they will, if you're logged in as Joe, for instance, and try to perform a password change using, this command here. Okay. First of all, it'll ask for his password. And then if he chooses less than 8 digits, it'll complain. It says insufficient amount of digits or password too short or something to that effect. I forgot what the exact message is. But that's why you need the sudo in front of that. But Joe doesn't have sudo. So he would need to have Bob, Kim, or Susan do this job for him, which is not a big deal because maybe Joe is a child. Maybe Joe is, you don't want to give Joe the authority to do that. Maybe you want to create the password for him or the rest of those users. There is a reason why people do this kind of restriction stuff. So there's a lot of areas that Joe can't get into either, including installing software. He can look at the software manager, but to install software is different. Okay, so anyways. Recap time. All right, so if you do the login automatically, again, you will find a setting in here. That is your login window with that user that you created listed here. And that means the machine will auto log in every time with whatever name is in here. All right, so again, not recommended in my book for laptops, especially if they leave your house. Because like I said, if you have auto logins turned on and you lose your laptop or leave it behind, there's a high probability somebody can just lift the lid, turn it on, and take a look at all your goodies. Okay, and then if you're using encrypt your home folder, keep in mind that auto login thing has a restriction. Automatic login will fail if the user's home directory is encrypted. One more reminder of which way the user list will align on your login screen is 3 positions. I'm choosing right on mine. Your guest sessions look like this. They'll have a warning box to give you an indication you need to save your files on a stick because you can't save them to the local machine. You don't have the authority to do that. And your file manager will look like that, has guest, dash, and some cryptic number on it. And these numbers will be different on your machine. Users, again, there's 2 types. There is standard and also admin. Okay, so I gave you the password for changing that to shorter. And keep in mind, if you're using this password box, it's automatically 8 characters. Default. If you need less than that, then you'll need to do the sudo command thing, providing you have sudo authority. Or have someone who does have sudo authority do it for you. Okay, I think I'm done, folks. Thank you for watching.